Today's video is sponsored by PokemnStore.com, the best place to get yourself some TCG code cards. They are compatible with TCG Live, and you can of course get everything on the website for 5% off using the coupon code ZapdosTCG. This video is also sponsored by CARDMARKET.com. This is a European platform where you're able to buy and sell cards to people all across Europe. I personally use it every single day, and you can do it as well. And you can use the referral name ZapdosTCG to help support the channel. This video is also sponsored by PLAYMAT.com. This is a platform where you're able to, of course, create your own custom playmat. They have, of course, capabilities to ship worldwide, and you can get 10% off by clicking the link down below. So definitely check it out. Last but not least is Dragon Shield, the best brand to protect your beautiful cards. You can of course there's links down below for US and European people, and you can of course get your best quality sleeves available, as well as deck boxes and binders. Thanks so much for sticking around with the commercials. I hope you enjoyed today's upload. If you do, be sure to let me know by rocking the hell out of the like button, and let's get this video going. Sup YouTube, it's ZapdosTCG here, and welcome back to another TCG video on my channel. Today we have our special guest, Steffen, of course, the knowledge of the TCG community, and I'm very stoked to be doing part 2 of Rotation throughout the years, because we haven't gotten a lot of questions lately about when is Rotation taking place, so it's the ideal time. Last video we did was 8 months ago. Tell everyone, Steffen, what you do for the community and how you feel about today's video.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me here again, Joshua. I really appreciate being around here. 8 months already. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Exactly.
No, so long-time player since '05. Been playing at all levels, been at Worlds many times. And, well, since we had this last time, I've also been staffing Worlds. So I've been staffing mostly this season and the previous one.
So really great.
Trying to give back to the community a bit. And actually, to be honest, it's actually quite fun staffing, so I really enjoy it. And then I also run a YouTube channel just like you. I'm just not that popular, just like you. So, otherwise for the video today, I'm would say nervous or anything like that, but I think everybody should say with the obvious warning that this is based on memory, and my memory is I'm becoming an old man, so the memory is not the sharpest around.
Yeah, but the fun fact is I always see you around staffing at tournaments, so that's super cool, because I've been playing during like day 1, day 2, and I see you around, and you're having a blast. So it's always nice to see that perspective of the community, because people never retire from Pokemon, right?
No, the truth is people say they leave and they quit, and then it's sure. But it's temporary. They always come back somehow, They can be gone for a couple of months, couple of years, and then they still show up.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they turn themselves into judges. Maybe they do something different. Maybe they're actually owning a business now, selling cards. But they will still be around. It sticks for life. That's the cool thing about the Pokemon TCG community. So last time we did this video, we were talking about Rotation, and we ended during the Heart Gold, Soul Silver era, the Golden Ages, by the way, during the Dark Explorers days as well. And the last thing we talked about was the ECC, the European Challenge Cup, which actually had a lot of great things going for it, because that was the first glance at specific regionals, I would say, because not a lot of people have been playing at those bigger tournaments, and that was with ECC a great thing. And now, actually, we're going to be talking about Black and White all the way to Plasma Freeze. So that Rotation, that's something I don't know of, because I quit during that period in time. I think the last deck I've played then was Donphan with the hit and run, I suppose.
Yeah, that is still slightly off, right? Because now, well, there's a lot of cards that goes in this format here, and all I can remember from back then, like we had one of the biggest name drops in this block, and that was Darkrai EX that dropped in this year.
Yeah. And Darkness Explorers or something like that, right?
And see, it was Darkness Explorer. But now, out of my own, so we're hitting the most interesting format. But before we say anything, first, prayers off to, now we lost Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which was a big loss, because I don't know about you, but the art there was fantastic.
Yeah, also the common cards felt so cool. I think they had a little bit of, not that bright of a color, but like a little bit of a fade out, where the colors are like, how do you say that? It's like they were really appealing to look at.
But it was not because we didn't get anything in return, because we also hit the first block, or the first season, I would say, where I know it was technically already in the previous season, but because we did talk about N. We did mention N because they came in. They came in Noble Victors, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
and that was
exactly.
already
And that
released in
was
the previous format.
the time where they actually decided to print full art supporters, and we know how
Oh, you
far they
took the
hit.
word out of my mouth here, because full art supporters, as many people may know, I'm collecting full art supporters in a
Every
big
language.
numbers in every language or update since the last 8 months. Every European language. I
Yeah,
sold
yeah,
off
yeah.
my Japanese ones because they paid basically half a house for what I had laying around in
Oh,
Japanese full art supporters. So don't worry, guys. It's all invested safely in stocks.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. And at this time and
safely.
age, you definitely need to start investing because inflation's everywhere.
Yeah, and it is everywhere. And well, we can learn a lot of things about that, but it's not what we're here to talk about.
We
Back
will
on
drift away.
format. And so what we actually were looking at back then, back in that specific season, we were gearing up for the first Worlds also outside the US actually. Because in 2013, Vancouver was the spot for Worlds that
Oh,
year.
yeah.
But that was the culmination of this format. So that's actually where we're going to end up, I would say, for this particular format. But a couple of words I would like to give based on what I remember back in the format. We also had like interesting mini sets like Dragon Ball, which was quite fun.
Yeah, is that
Boundaries
the time where
Crosses.
they printed Dragon Pokemon for the first time again? Yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. There's a lot of things we tend to forget. So you had Dragons Exalted, Dragon Vault, these kind of sets that was really, well, Dragon specific. And before we had Dark Explorers, like you said, that is where the big drop happened in the form of Darkrai EX. And we all know how people will play later Darkrai Terrakion, Darkrai with when Mewtwo was printed later, Mewtwo EX.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
was a,
yeah. That was printed
yeah,
with the next Destiny set, right?
I believe so as well. You
And that
can
was the
check
set.
that for
That
me.
was the set before Darkrai, and I believe Darkrai came out during the time where everyone had their nationals going around.
Indeed, indeed. So we had a lot of things that actually happened in these years here as well, and it was really really interesting to see how this all worked out, right, and how all these formats worked, because these sets here, like, they were big. There was a lot of stuff happening in black and white when that dropped. We even had an interesting Sorark with the
Oh yeah, yeah.
foul play.
I think
Sorark
I
is from
also
that time.
remember, like, really vaguely, where there was also a first turn rule that you can attack again or
E-
something similar. I
There
remember
was.
the deck
Mhm.
ZPST, Zekrom, Pachirichu Shaman, and
Yep, that happened
Tornadus.
here. You had these speed run decks, turn one decks, and all these things that happen in these kind of sets. It was a huge trip for the format, and it didn't get any smaller by the fact that you hit Plasma at the end of the season, because that's where all the Plasma cards were introduced also, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
play
With the Lugia taking additional prize cards, and then also the very
exactly.
popular deck at that World Championship was Deoxys with Thunderous
Yeah,
and
indeed, the plasma deck it was just
yeah.
called, right? So you would use at that time. You would have the Geoxys that would power up 10 additional damage, and you would attack with Curum most of the time. Plasma Curum. That card was really strong. But you even had like, was it Thunderous Fist or Thunder Fist or whatever? The Thunderous had a really
Yeah,
good
yeah, yeah.
attack that would
It's
charge up the bench, and that would simply be the bread and butter of the deck, right? To get into chip damage, set up the board, and then come and swipe with a Curum that could also hit bench damage, if I remember correctly. Plasma Spear, it was called, I think. Again, this is based purely on memory, and it's
Yeah,
a
you're gonna
long
have to
time
carry
ago.
us through this period because I actually had a little bit of a hiatus. I after I got my second place at nationals, I think the Worlds was at Hawaii. I think 2012, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
correct, correct.
I
Yeah,
was like 16 or whatever. I didn't have the money to go to Hawaii. Let's just make that clear. So I didn't go to that Worlds, but then I also studied, like focused on my studies and didn't play during the
uh,
rest of the time. So be clever. Like you have to
uh,
put school above Pokemon because at one point you will graduate and then Pokemon just takes the upper hand eventually. So I think like having a backup plan definitely with your studies is a great thing. Like people always say like, oh, I'm gonna be a YouTuber and forget school. Don't
yeah.
do that. Always have a backup plan in life because that's the way you never have to worry.
I remember when I asked you, so Zapdos, what do you do actually? Did you also studied and stuff, but besides the point, right? But the point is, you're absolutely correct. Good to finish your study in that time. I remember I was doing my master's back then, so it's exactly the
Oh,
same.
hard
Get
times.
your studies in.
But you were combining it, right?
Yeah, I was doing two masters at the same time, and I played a lot.
Wow, that's insane. I couldn't do it. So I had that like that, I think 3 year break. I will be catching up because I'll be
Uh,
performing at tournaments with the upcoming years that we're talking about rotation. But as we are
mhm.
currently here, we see, I think it was black and white all the way to plasma freeze. And then
Yeah,
we move all the
correct.
way to 2013, 2014 with Next Destinies and Flash Fire.
Ooh,
Do we
jumping
know?
forward
Yeah,
already.
yeah, yeah. Do we know exactly when that rotation took place with black and white and plasma freeze? Was it like the expected date, or was it?
So it was announced in July, so in the normal time, right? So and then the rotation happened after Worlds.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, this was also the seasons where regular rotation would just happen after Worlds. So I would believe that it happened like just end August, beginning September in 2014. This would be right. And yeah, then Worlds would be the last tournament in this particular format.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
actually that trend continued on for like many years. There's one exception with 2019. I'm gonna be very excited to be talking about
ah,
that because that was one of my
oof.
favorite moments ever. Even though it's scary, I love that aspect. But yeah, without jumping too far ahead, so we ended with Plasma Freeze. The best decks we talked about like was the Plasma deck, Lugia. Were there any other particular decks? What Darkrai dominated? You
Yeah,
said.
yeah, Darkrai dominated a lot in that Worlds when we talk about the 12-13 Worlds, right? And I remember vaguely. So funny enough, it was not a big deck or anything, but it's something I know both my brothers they played, actually all three of them, because I didn't go to Vancouver, but all my brothers did, and they all played Darkrai Hydreigon.
Oh,
And they in
stage
the
two.
stage two, exactly. They dared and played stage two. Did they get top 32? I think one of them did, but no complete top placements. But the point was more like you could play max potion, which
Oh
was
yeah, that
which
item
was
card would be broken right now.
oh man. We're gonna get a little late up in the formats. We're gonna talk about when Waylord hit the scene. That's not
Oh,
quite yet, but we get there. Just alluding
also,
a bit
now
to
that I
what's
think about it, we
happening.
should make a topic about HP, hit points throughout the years. That would be a great follow
Oh,
up because
oh,
things.
that is. People will sometimes say this was power creep or whatnot, but well, fact is that you all know back then when we started this series back and we talked about worlds when 150 HP on a stage 2 was huge on an EX Pokemon. It was big. And now, in the meantime, when we hit this black and white format, the people were like, oh my god, we got big, fat, basic EX cards
Yeah,
now. And like,
Reshiram, Zekrom hit the scene. I think they had both
yeah,
130 HP.
yeah, but that was just regular cards, right?
Yeah,
And then you had the Darkrai, which was also, of course, a basic EX still, but still high hit points for that time. I don't remember how much hit points it actually did have. I
I
think it
think
was
190.
108, 180, in that ballpark, right? But fact was, you had big basics. And speaking about that Zekrom, there was that super fun deck with Reuniclus and Zekrom, but that was
Oh
still
yeah,
that
yeah,
was in the
yeah. With
previous
Ross
format.
Cotton getting, I think it was in
Yeah,
second place or something with the
yeah.
Truth,
But
which
that
is
but that was the year before. That was in 11-12, I
yeah,
believe.
yeah.
12-13, that stuff rotated out because that contained hard gold, soul, silver cards. Now, up in this format here, when we talked about plasma and everything, one plasma deck was really the big one. And do not be mistaken, Rishan Genesect was just not yet because I believe that was Plasma Blast that came after.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, because like people like to call it Virgin. So
Yeah, Virgin,
yeah, that
just
was
Virgin.
the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the deck that was so popularized throughout the world, saw so
Mm,
much success. And there was also like an ace pack card. Talking about it, ace packs are coming back to the
yeah,
TCG. So
yeah.
very great to
We're
be talking
hitting it.
about these old school mechanics, and yeah, I'm excited
Because
for these.
when a lot of us, when we saw the reveal back in Yokohama, we were like, A-specs, we knew what it meant. We knew what these A-specs meant because back then you had computer search, you had dowsing machine, it was called, you
Yeah.
had scramble switch, you had the gold potion, you had all kinds of
Or
cool
just
A-spec
scoop up
cards.
Cyclone.
That as well, that as well. So you had a lot of super cool cards that you could play back then, and it was super awesome to see. And I think these are like the big highlights from then. And evidently, I've missed a few things. We're just brushing over it. Otherwise, we could talk 1 hour for each format. And then again, to be honest, like I said, this is also I played. Sure. Oh, wait. Hold your hat. Hold your beer. Whatever you want to hold. We forgot about something that happened in that format that I personally liked a lot because I look at the sets and I see, okay, in 2012, 2013, there was the set Noble Victors in play, and you could play Electric Rayquaza. You could play. You could play that. So that was a deck where you could Dynamotor.
Oh
Basically, like the
yeah,
Dynamo,
electric. Yeah. I think I
Electric.
was still
Right?
barely around during that time because I
Yeah.
played Magnezone from Triumphant with electric, and actually got like
So
second place during that. I think that the time frame
yeah,
when they rotated the stuff, it was
yeah,
after Worlds. Then that her Gold Soul Silver block
indeed.
got rotated. Okay,
So
very huge hit.
there was one very cool thing you could do that I remember doing at in the 2012 2013 season, I believe. And people can of course correct if I'm a year off, but bear with me, please. I played this electric deck, or Dynamotor, and it had a very iffy matchup against Darkrai. However, some people, including me, started playing one Fliptini, we called it, the Victini that could make you reflip one coin flip in your attack.
Yeah.
And then you would go up with your Tynamo, and you would flip for Thunder Wave on their
For
Darkrai, because
paralyzation.
they did not play switches. So what you did, you had two flips to do it. That means that gave you a 75% chance of hitting one hit, right, to get him
Yeah.
paralyzed. And they were stuck for a turn. And then you could charge up your big Rayquaza and get the first knockout. It was very,
So price
very big.
mapping wise, so there have been multiple formats where a best deck in a
Yeah,
format doesn't run switches. We're talking about like Lugia,
yeah.
Gardevoir, like these days, but
Mhm.
back in the days, also it's a crippling weakness. So very cool to
Yeah,
see.
and many of these things, like with two little switch card, like we see it right now. Like, hey, block lags won something, right? So that means that there's some things that are weaknesses, and back then it was still the same. And honestly, after playing for so many years, what we start noticing is a lot of people go like, "Oh my God, this is the best deck. This is the weakness. It is just a pattern, guys, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a pattern.
It's a
Most of the
pattern,
things,
yeah.
a lot of the things that happened in a different format before. Take the switch cards. You just mentioned it. We have decks again where the whole switching mechanic is low again, and then something hits again. Or you have decks that come in that does a lot of energy acceleration. You have something where one-shot mechanics become very big. You have something where, yeah, the different win conditions become a thing, like,
Yeah,
or
but
milling through
every
your deck.
format has its unique thing going for it, and people like that played specific formats always look fondly upon them, unless you're playing that ADP
Uh,
deck back in the days.
yeah, well,
But
let's
there
let's
have been
let's
good and
face it.
bad formats. But with that being said, so we there is a rotation. Her gold, soul, silver is gone, and we had to do it with only black and white. Why they decide to
Mm,
like make us attack on the first turn? That was something to think
that was
about.
it. It's always interesting why they did that, and honestly, I can't remember this because I remember when we also had an emergency mid-rotation that was a little later. We're going to talk about that as well. See how far we get today. Maybe we need episode 3,
You never
Joshua. I
know.
don't know, but we can at least get a big block. And one thing we also forgot to mention, starting in the black and white on, ladies and gentlemen, that's expanded for you. That's where expanded later was drawn.
Well, yeah, that's currently still what expanded is, right? Black and white
Late, yeah.
onwards. So the
Indeed.
foundation's there.
And what I mean is later was where it started, right? So these are some cards you could actually still technically play in expanded tournaments. Although last time I checked, we don't really have expanded events going on right now.
I think the
So
last
it's
expanded was before COVID.
oh, that's a lifetime ago.
You might
That's a
think so,
lifetime
right?
ago. That is a lifetime ago. I have a 3-year-old kid in the meantime, was almost 4, right? So
Ooh,
time just flies.
time
My kid,
flies when you're having fun. That's what it is.
uh, or when you don't sleep, right? That's No, so one thing I would like to, when we move into 2013, 2014, I already said, like, do not forget, do not make the mistake that the Verisian Genesect was a thing. That's a thing now. That came in now. And what also happened, please, if you remember what deck came in now, I'll be a very happy guy. It may came in now or it came in later, perhaps, but is this the year where I can finally say Donphan?
Was that Plasma Blast? I think Donphan was
I
from
know,
Plasma Blast, and that was, I
yeah, and
think,
the thing. And I know for a fact that I played Donphan at Worlds 2015 in Boston. There I played
ooh,
Donphan. And
okay.
this is 14 Worlds. And 14, that was the
Oh,
first time we
I know
were in.
I know what happened. I think it was with Phantom Forces that Robo Substitute came out, and then Donphan
Uh,
really got its way,
yeah,
like with Corina and the
yeah,
Fighting Stadium and
exactly. Because
Hawlucha.
indeed, because later, so the later iterations of Donphan at the end of its lifespan was with Wobbuffet, because Wobbuffet would block all the abilities when it was active. In the beginning, it was just Robo-Subs, right? It was Robo-Subs was the big thing that actually happened
big
then.
HP
You
attackers as well.
you had Karina, you had a hit and run strategy again that was not really greatly seen since what was called Grumpig Stall. That was with Grumpig and all the fossils back then. And maybe I missed a swap deck, but that really started happening there again when you could hit with Donphan. Base damage was like, 40, I think, and you could swap. You could do Silver
Strong
Bangle,
energy and
Strong
muscle
Energy,
band and
Silver Bangle, the Fighting Stadium, you had
yeah.
them all. All this stuff made for really great things you could swap into. It was super cool deck. And then, of course, later on, we hit other things that would come in a little later, right? But Rishan Genesect was an interesting matchup to always play because later on, it was very good against Rishan Genesect Donphan, especially later when you played Wobbuffet, when that came out later. Because Wobbuffet, then we're in the XY era. But I also remember fondly from that Worlds, I believe that was the Worlds where you had a finals, and I don't remember what division. Very well could be seniors or juniors even, but you had even masters. But you had a finals where one of them was playing Rishan and Genesect for sure, and there was a Colress for one.
Oof. The Colress back then was you shuffle your hand to your deck and then draw cards equal to the amount of Pokemon in
total
play.
Total amount of bench Pokemon
okay,
in
bench
play.
Pokemon, yeah.
So he would Colress for one, and somebody in your comment would go like, Steffen, that's of course this person you're referring to, but I don't remember the name on top of my head. But I just remember watching it live, and I was like, what's happening here? And I was like, okay, he would call for him because he had nothing else to do. And there was also, I remember there was also a juniors that won in the thing in that year with Rishan Genesect, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but he would top deck G booster for game like really quickly, and that was also an ace spec at that time where you could hit for 200 damage. It was absolutely insane to watch. It was some crazy things you saw, and you saw also XY. And what was the newest set in 2014? That was, are we at Flash Fire? Yeah, that was Flash Fire. Flash Fire was the newest thing at that time, and then we were looking at and then Charizard EX came in and was
and Pyroar, let's go.
Pyroar, Charizard. Don't even start on all that. Ugh, that was.
Well, it's getting worse because I think the set after that was like Furious Fist or something, and then
the
Seismitoads were.
Oh, that was later. Next format. That's 14,
okay,
15. Cool. That's 14, 15. That's not 13, 14.
So
I'm pretty sure about that.
the Worlds from 2014 was then with Flash Fire as the last set for Worlds.
Indeed. And Pyro was a thing running up to it because at Nationals, I remember playing a garbage deck. I remember like that. I should just have played what I thought that year. But okay, that's besides the point. You would play, that deck was really good. And you also had at that point, I think when XY came out, you also could play Cernius. And then you could swap around with Cernius. Aromatisse was a thing. You would be able to use Geomancy, get all your fairy energies, because, ladies and gentlemen, we would play fairies back then. That was the fairies. What's the thing? That was the thing. And then you could swap around the energy, move around, play Max Potion. Again, that healing strategy was so good.
Tier 2 deck, right? It was not like tier 1 broken or anything. I remember that the deck really bricked a ton. I think I played then league challenges again, so I was slowly but steadily getting back in there.
We're also getting into where people are starting to correct us, because now we're getting the formats in where more people played still recently, and they'll be like, we remember this better than you guys. You're making this and that mistake. But remember, we're just cruising over the old formats and getting some memories in, right?
Yeah, that's the point of this video. Like thinking about like all the mechanics we've had, all the archetypes, and more importantly, when rotations take place. But right now we are in a situation where the rotations always will take place just after Worlds. So Worlds will be the final format. They lock it up, and then in the new season actually in September, and then poof.
Yeah, indeed. And that was exactly what happened there. And I can't remember exactly what I played at 2014 Worlds. That wasn't DC the first time. And I honestly, for the life of me, cannot remember exactly what I played, which is very strange, to be honest. Because I remember from 15 onwards, then I have clear memory of what I played and how I played and all the things. Because
memory will get better and better as we continue. But for now, I think we're in the Flash Fire situation.
Yeah,
so.
And I may be very biased to start on 2015 quickly, because we are around a very important time in Pokemon right now. Something that you will also be like, wait, was that then? Yes, that was when they started with the new invitation system for Worlds. 2015 was the first year where you had day 1 and day 2 invites, the one we are just going away from this year.
Oh, full circle.
Yeah, full circle. So we are, for the first time, as you know, we got a new invitation system this year. Everybody knows. You made a video about it, I believe. And of course you did. What am I saying? Of course you did. And of course, then we had this day 2 system. So you get a day 1 invite, and that started that year. And then you had day 2 invite. But the problem was back then, ELO.
Oh yeah, I think people started
ELO.
like losing on purpose to have their ELO for Worlds mixed
No,
up
no,
or something.
no. What people did back then, you would go to Nationals because that was high ELO.
Yeah.
You would go 1-0 and drop.
Oh yeah, so your ELO maxed out or something, or had a really high number then.
You would have a high ELO. So I even played a regionals. I think I went 3-0 and drop.
Ooh, what a strange system.
It was weird, but what it actually did for me back then, it made sure that if I 3-0'd and dropped, then I would be sure if I just went 1 or 2-0 at Nationals one year, one of those years, I would be sure to have enough ELO to get to Worlds.
That's
it was
such a system to abuse.
It was so stupid, the system, because I also am a firm believer you should promote a system where you should play the tournaments you participate in, not like drop in the beginning to conserve your ELO. But of course, if the case was that it was better for you to get to Worlds, of course you would do it. Of course, why would you not do it? So I remember that back then, but I also remember just and now maybe mixing 14 and 15 all these years together. But all those years it was so much fun to play because. What was it? Flashfire, I said it was the Charizard and all these decks, and you could start playing Blacksmith, you could do speed decks, you could play Pyroar, you could play Rishon Genesect, you could play Donphin.
So there was a lot of variety, if I had to recall. Not like the Darkrai formats, it's like way more with the variety in the top tier decks.
Yeah, and also when we get around these years here, we also start looking at decks like, Plasma Flareon and such things.
Was the Vespiquen, the
exactly.
B revenge or something.
Exactly, because you would play decks like with Battle Compressor, and what deck comes up when I say Battle Compressor? What is a very big deck around that time that was running on Battle Compressor? Come on. Night March, exactly. We are around those times where Night March was a thing. And now again, correct me if I'm wrong, whatever set Night March came out in, but it was definitely played a lot.
Forces?
Yeah, and Phantom Forces was 15, I believe. And yeah, that is 15 if I'm cheating a little bit here in the backfire. Then Phantom Force, because you had Furious Fist, Phantom Forces, and that's where we got all. And Furious Fist is, of course, where we got all those super.
Boundaries Cross was during that time also where the Landorus and Landorus Bats.
Yeah, Lando Bats, they just called it for short, right? And Primal Clash, and here comes the biggest thing. Roaring Skies. What was in Roaring Skies, Joshua? Yeah, you're close. I love Rayquaza. I love playing Mega Ray, but there was a bigger card there.
Shaman.
The
$70 regular.
Oh my God, that was when the card was so expensive. If you wanted it just in a regular art, it was a lot of money, and maybe, yeah, I think I would believe you. I believe $70, but full art was even worse.
I bought them all the way back in Trollon. I didn't even know. I don't know if CARDMARKET was a thing back then. I don't know. But
CARDMARKET was a thing, but I think
they were definitely not popular. People were buying cards on eBay and Trollon. That's what I remember.
I know that from a reliable source that CARDMARKET database goes to 2015 because that's where I obtain data for my Pokemon research paper. Yes, I'm writing it. I'll be there sometime.
Ooh, perfect. So yeah, the thing was that you had to buy it. There's not a lot of places you could buy the cards from, and you needed the cards because otherwise your deck is garbage. When you're playing Night March or whatever, you need Shaman for draw power. And the cool thing was they didn't limit it, so it was Shaman draw. Oh, here's another Shaman. Ultra Ball, empty hand, Shaman draw.
And then you would say Sky Return because you could put your Shaman back in your hand, do some damage, put it back in your hand. It was so good. And these decks were really, really good. I remember those years. That was also the years we had Arena Cup in Germany, I believe. These were kind of special regionals. So Germany got 4 different.
Similar to the old school ECCs. They felt like regionals, but they also paid out I don't know if it was with championship points or ELO. I don't know what happened.
They paid out CP at that point later, I believe. And that was also where I remember I got second at an Arena Cup in Berlin with Westbig Quinn Bats, where I played more than 30 Pokemon in my deck.
Bind and
And
drop.
yeah, oh, it was a lot of fun. And I also won one with Night March back in the day where I played Marowak, Maxie's Marowak, Maxie's Galate, and stuff like that. Because what you would do, Marowak would do, when Marowak got into play, it had an ability that said effects on your opponent's attack would not affect your hand. That means that Quaking Punch didn't work.
Ooh.
That was huge. So that means if you turn one, got your Marowak out, which was quite
Like
reliable.
Maxie's hidden ball trick was very similar to single strike mustard in the new school
Exactly.
days. You have to empty your hand and then you
Exactly.
can summon like a Pokemon from.
I love how you say summon. This is that's such a non-Pokemon term, this summon thing, right? Yeah, but you would be able to play a Pokemon from your discard pile or from your deck. Or no, the mustards are like that, right? But Maxies and Archies, Ace in the Hole. Yeah, Archie, you should look it up in German. That card is magic in German. I'll tell you that much. So people can go and look up Archie's Ace in the Hole in German. Go check that. But Maxie's Ball Trick, or Max Balltrick, it was called, I believe, in German. That was indeed last card in hand. You could play it. You would mill down your hand. You will fill down your hand using your different balls. You would use your battle compressors. You would use your computer search, which was your
computer search.
trainers. All those things you would use and try to play out your hand such that you could play your Marowak. And I believe it had to be played from the discard pile, if I remember correctly. So you wanted to discard the Marowak as well. And you would often battle compress the Maxies away so you could do it on a Versus Seeker, because Versus Seeker was just a staple in those decks.
Yeah. I wonder when they're going to be reprinting that. It comes around back and forth ever since like Fire Red, Leaf Green.
I don't know in any case, but if you want to play Versus Seeker, you could just play Epic Splash, right? Because Versus Seeker is legal in Epic Splash. Like, because I've just been playing Epic Splash with Jesper, so we have this
hilarious. That format is so much fun. One of the best side events I've ever seen.
You should try it. We're still working on it. And of course, shout out. We got the document up, Joshua, so you can go and check the official Epic Splash regulations. They are online. So go and build your Epic Splash deck. But in any case, you could play Versus Seeker, which was a big card, of course. Very good. And of course, I wouldn't even think they would print something like Battle Compressor now. That would be absolute madness. But back then when I was trying to remember these formats, when you could play Battle Compressor and you had plasma cards, you would also play Execute, of course, because Execute with propagation.
Yeah. I see that come around back in the expanded format.
And when I started playing Control or these kind of things, the first deck that got me into this, let's say, fun play type, I would say it like that. That was when
there's always one person. You gotta.
Yeah, exactly. There's one of the people who are having a lot of fun at the table. Nobody said both people had to have fun, right? That's kind of the whole premises of Control. But the point was here, you would play Plasma Executor. That had a blockade attack, it was called. And the attacks did 10 damage. And that sounds like, Jesus, why would you only do 10 damage? Well, first and foremost, you had Hypnotoxic Laser and Verbank City Gym to put it up to 40 damage. But the effect.
Wow.
But Joshua, do you remember the effect of blockade? Do you remember what the attack did? Were you present around that time? I end up quizzing you in this thing here, but I love doing
like blockade. Like somebody can't attack or some cards cannot be played. Support a lot.
Yeah. No supporters, indeed. No supporters.
I nailed it. Let's go.
You got it. Excellent. So you would do all that. And the cool thing was you could play Battle Compressor, throw away Executes, pick them up from discard pile, and then Battle Compressor became basic Pokemon search. That was absolute madness. So you could just get that in play straight away. It was super, super good. I've already forgotten what you would play next to this, but I just remember playing this deck and it was so much fun. And you would play like Team Flare Grunt to remember to move energy cards and whatever, because Flare Grunt was an XY card or something like that. All these kind of mad cards. Exactly. We're mishmashing some formats here, but we're getting up until,
we were ending with like Shaman was crazy and it actually cost a lot of money. And during that World Championships, there was there was a lot of decks that revolved around Shaman. And I also saw like that clip where people won by bossing stuff up. And I think Vileplume also got released during those days.
Yeah,
and the annoying item lock. Let's go.
Yeah. And one thing I'm also trying to look up right now, because there was one of these years, there was a rotation mid-season somewhere. And let me just see. Um, it's because I don't think it's written anywhere here when it was, but some people can probably fill up on that, because there was one nationals circuit back then, because we still had national championship up until
Yeah,
2016.
and
That
they
was the last run.
always happen during May and June, right?
Yeah, and that was what was interesting about that time. You had a year where it was called about before or after Toad, because before there was like just Toad Shaman, or Toad Garb, or Toad whatever, Toad Crawdont, Toad, you name it. Toad was
Serpents,
just a
let's
bit.
go.
Toad was just a good card. It was very annoying. I played it as well, guilty of that. I even remember my wife playing Nationals and also played Toad, because Toad was just good. So I had to get myself 8 Toads, and you can imagine how difficult it was to just get 4. Needless to say,
In
getting
those
8.
days, cards were
Uh,
expensive.
yeah, and like people would not believe how expensive some cards were back then. When people start crying about paying for Charizard EX in this format, just think about that's peanuts, ladies and gentlemen. Back to what we had to pay to get our shamans, to get our,
Mewtwo EX.
or don't even about that card, or Darkrai, or like I just said, like,
Those were
um,
also the days where Pokemon didn't print the cards on like tins. I don't remember a Shaman EX tin.
uh,
That never happened.
wasn't there a Mewtwo tin?
Mewtwo
There was
tin
a
and
pro.
Darkrai, then they
Yeah,
started doing that
yeah,
after
yeah,
Worlds,
yeah.
after a season already. So
Yeah, of
people had
course.
already
After,
paid for them.
yeah, of course, they wanted people to play max buck. I don't know. This would also be planning. I don't know what Pokemon was planning back then. We don't know. I don't claim to know anything about their strategy behind that time, because honestly, I had no idea. Um, all I remember was these years, and now we move into, the format as we
2015.
know it. We're sitting at 15 now. It's a dawn of a new age, because we got this new day 2 invite system. And when we moved into the 2016 season about that, then something otherwise big happened as well. We got SPEs and regionals in the format that we kind of know right now.
Yeah, because before there was only like nationals, I would say, and like these special cups or yeah.
Honestly, what happened was there was many regionals back then, and it will be what they called 1 day regionals. Now you would go somewhere, you'll play a regional in 1 day, you'll be able to cram out the Swiss rounds and play top got to be done in the evening. These were
How
1 day
crazy.
regionals, and every country had like in Denmark we even had 4 regionals, like many
Whoa.
regionals. So I know that when I write on my resume, I won 15 regionals. Yes, it's cool. I won tournaments. It's all great and everything, but it's not compared to when you win a regionals today. It
Yeah,
is
yeah, the new
hands
school
down.
regional wins.
It's a hand down bigger accomplishment to win a regionals today. So credit to every winner out there. And who is our newest winner right now? That's a Soul, right? So
Yeah, he
uh,
dominated the scene once again.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's
yeah, respectable player, also content creator as well.
yeah,
So, I still need to
bow
like
down
fill
to
in
that.
those shoes as well. I'm doing a lot of content, but I still need to like get my big dubs. I'm getting my
Now,
top eight every season. I get a top eight, but that's where I stand currently. But hey ho,
now,
yeah, it is what it is.
now I got a nice little trivia question for you as well. Who won the very first modern major? So that's regional SP, all these things.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. Is
Oh,
the
oh,
person still playing today?
nah, he's still around.
He's still around, but not playing anymore.
So I'll give you a hint. The very first, it was an SPE, and it was in Germany. It was Spiel SPE.
You?
Haha.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I
yeah.
had to pull that off. I had to pull. It was my last big victory, right? So I did have top cuts after that. It was my when I won the Spiel special. But people may say, "Oh, great, it's a new," or I may say, "Like, great, it's a modern," and everything like that. But it was a 2 day event, but it was only top 8 the second day, right? It
Oh,
was we
okay,
did
okay.
we did not have 227 players. We had like 100 something. We can probably look it up on Limitless because they have everything. Because now we're getting into Limitless era, so they
Oh,
can
is
start
that
looking up.
the times?
Yeah, because I know the event is there because I played Philip Schultz in the finals.
Oh, yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah,
So
so we are in the XY
indeed,
territory with
and that was with Uveltal was big gun at that point in
yeah, and I
time.
remember Yveltal Garbodor. That was a crazy deck.
Mm, Yveltal was a big fish at that point. You had also Volcanion deck was also a thing. Of course, that was a pretty good deck. You also could play Mewtwo,
And
Mega Mewtwo.
most importantly, Greninja Break.
Oh, don't even start about it. Maybe I have one on my lap here somewhere. If that joke is still funny these days, so I'm getting too old maybe. But the
Those are the
point,
classic jokes. Hilarious.
man, and I've been around for too long. I mean, I also think we skipped around on Primal Groudon. That was also a deck
Oh, yeah,
around
yeah,
those
yeah,
times.
with the Omega something something.
Omega Barrier, and when people would go like, I would like to play Lysander on that one, you go like, okay, fine, you can target it, but nothing happens.
Yeah, true. Like with the days of Flashfire, they printed Lysander, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Lysander is like the boss's orders, as we all know today. I will never go
Yep.
away because they keep reprinting that. Same with Professor's Research. Those are gonna become staples moving
Yeah,
forward, I suppose.
and I don't know. I still not unsure how that goes. It's arguably better when you can play Pokemon Catcher. So yes, it's better that we play Boss's Orders because Pokemon Catcher was just a trainer. It was insane.
That was broken. I remember them. Emerging powers,
Uh,
those decks went so fast. It's
yeah, it
insane.
was when you played Typhlosion, Reshiram, you played. Now we're going back in
Can you
time again. But
imagine that? Yeah, yeah. We are drifting
uh,
away again.
oh my God, we are not keeping a straight ship here. But okay, point is more like what I want to say is we're around that era where all those decks come out. You had Lysander, which is basically Boss's Order, and it was Lysander on the card, and you had things like Omega Barrier, and you had a lot of cool decks. You had Night March running around. We talked about Toad. We talked about all this, well, rotation before, after Toad, and then we're in 2015, 2016, where we introduce what we know about today, like the classical regionals. There was the last year with nationals, and then we got internationals instead, right?
Yeah, and that's
Where
where Tord made his name.
Oh yeah, that's where Toward the Lord started out and cramming out them victories, and
Not making it sound like ICs are child's play.
he won a lot of things in those years, and we're getting somewhere. And don't know about you, but those were like big times because that was when we started having 2-day events with second day Swiss,
Yeah, and
and
professional streaming also went down on these
and
internationals, which was super
yeah,
fun for people watching at home. So you can like join in on the fun, which was definitely something I appreciated because I actually didn't play in all the. I think I played like one international and like maybe one or two regional. So you can follow along at home, which was the most important thing.
yeah, and what I also think was really big at this time here. So just imagine right now. Nowadays, regionals tickets they sell out in seconds in Europe and minutes, and even in the States they sell out. And we are talking about plus 1,000 players, 1,200, 1,500,
Yeah, just
almost two.
recently in San Antonio, 1,980
Yeah,
players. That's
yeah,
crazy.
and back then when we played the first day two Swiss and stuff like that, we were always questioning could we just make enough players to hit 227, which was still the mark at that point. And you would have international championships where the rule is still the same. To go to day two Swiss, you either have to have 19 match points or top 32, whichever is greater. I don't know if they
Oh yeah,
scrapped the
yeah. In
whichever is greater.
Australia, they had like that. I would say not an
You,
issue, but that happened to
but
them.
you could get day two with 6 free with 18 points because there was people who would that would be enough
Yeah,
points because there was only just a little more than 227, which will give rise to these situations where you could go to day two with 18 points. You would bubble, but the fact that you could make it in is unthinkable today.
6-3, easy.
Yeah, but there was also, I believe, maybe that came later because wait, that came later, Joshua. I'm making a mistake here because we also had a time where you needed 21 match points for day two.
21,
Yeah, that was you had to go 7-2.
7-2. I similar to a worlds format, I would say.
Yeah, but
X
7-2.
two.
Now, and I think I will always welcome people to come and be the more wise guys in the comments and everything because, well, that keeps up
The
traffic on your
amusement. Let's
channel, right?
go.
That's the amusement, right? If people come and say I'm a fool and I don't remember anything correctly, but I am pretty damn sure that we had times where you needed 21 match points to go to day two. And we also had times where you could go to day two with 18 match points because that would be enough
Whoa.
because there were so few players. This was super interesting. And just think about it. Everybody who started later now, who learned to play during COVID, after COVID, you imagine that we had hard times filling up events with 227
Yeah,
masters.
and
That
now
was
people
not.
like with a score of like whatever 923 or whatever. Oh, you don't even have top 32 or something because the player base is so drastically crazy now.
Yeah, and now I allude to we could make another talk about potential tournament structures we could diverge to because I got plenty of ideas of that, but that's off topic for today. But we are sitting right now at the dawn of a new age, right? So because new things are happening, it's always exciting, and we're getting returns of A-specs. We're changing away to a different not day two system, but we're around now in our time frame here. We're sitting around 2016. We have nationals is the last time they're around. We have you could play Pokken was also a format back then that was still just new on the circuit.
Yeah.
Pokken was new on the circuit. VG was also a thing, and all those years. And then we just introduced these day two systems. We got ICs was just starting up around
Yeah,
this
I
time.
remember I started vlogging all the way back in
Yeah,
2017. Play Greninja Break. Yeah, let's go.
yeah. I played Greninja at one regionals and never again because in my final game I priced three stage ones, whatever that
I
was
won
called.
so many games because of Bubble. It's crazy.
Oh, don't even start. I still have to punch my friend Bert at home because he beat me because of Bubble. I lost
Bubble
a
is
world,
hilarious.
and that morning I picked out my Auras, the one that could prevent
Yeah.
paralysis. I
People
picked
also
it out of my deck.
like tested it out with the Steam Siege Talon Flame.
Yeah, exactly. Because no, so we're actually at Worlds 2016. Now I can talk a lot of cool stuff there because it did. Greninja with Talonflame was a very good deck. So my good friend Bert Walters, he played it up to Worlds there. He went through day one with the deck and he made it all the way to top 8 Worlds that year with Talonflame Greninja. Yeah, it was really cool. And I believe he lost to Ross Crawford in top 8 that year in Worlds. But one thing that I can also say now, and I think this is a good time because for people who are sitting, I'm not sitting at home right now, actually, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sitting in my old room in my parents' house, which is currently
For
my
more
brother. Yes,
nostalgia.
it's Jesper's room. And what do I have behind me? It's his World's Winnings deck frame from 2016.
Ah, cool.
So this was the Yamega deck, or what he liked to call the Bebe deck.
Yeah, that was a one-time wonder, I would say.
Yeah, don't ask why it's called Bebe deck. You should ask him. But it was a deck that was, let me see, it was not very good. It was pretty good against Toad, let's be fair. He won his top 4 match. I have no idea how he did it because he played against Trevenant, and that was normally an auto
Yeah, was
loss.
that was item lock, right?
And that was item log, and that deck cannot do against that. So
Yeah,
how he
there was
beat,
also Wally, right? Was there Wally?
well, yeah, Wally was a thing, I believe. So he had to start. He had to hit everything, and of course he did. He hit like the magic. It was perfectly numbered
Sometimes
out.
tournament runs happen like that. When you have
Yeah,
the nuts and everything goes your
and
way.
and that year I played Waterbox. That was just Seismitoad quick, but you played the belts. And then you also would sometimes actually grenade hammer to finish the game. So yes, Quaking Punch was still very good at that time, but it was just played very differently, of course. But the Water Box was a very fun deck to play. I remember playing that, and you played Night March still. You still had all kinds of other decks. That was the year Audino won in Masters. Mega
Yeah,
Audino. Oh,
Shintaro Ito, right?
exactly. Hands down for that deck. That was one of the things I would say again. Just like that was a one-hit wonder. I believe Mega Audino was also a one-hit wonder. It was very good against Night March. It would absolutely destroy Night March, but it was terrible against Waterbox.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
do I
yeah,
know?
yeah.
How do I know? Because my other brother Simon, he played against one of the players from Mega Audino on stream that year, and he loves bringing back that game where the commentator says, "Oh, it's all Simon from here," and he was all happy to hear that because he won on that stream. Um, Also, there was so many cool decks back then. It was so much fun. Like I remember fondly all these games I did play. I remember just picking up his Waterbox decks because I played the same 60 as Simon. And then, stupid as I was, I didn't play test the deck because I was like, I can do this. Worlds, blah.
Easy.
So I played a round 1 mirror match. And then I can remember like sitting there in my first round, was like, how do you play mirror? We can wing it. We can do this. And I won my match. And then I played against Martin Janus in round 2, who played Westbequin Night March, I believe, or at least the Westbequin deck, which was, well, for Toad was terrible. Somehow I won that. Somehow I won that. And
Sometimes unfavorable matchups go your way. I figured that
yeah,
out throughout the years. It happens. Sometimes just the
yeah,
variance helps you out.
and And I remember all these kind of things. Like it was just really cool format back then. But yeah, I remember getting 33 at Worlds, 33rd.
Oh,
Yeah, and I've been 33rd at Worlds twice, I believe, and that just sucks
that
because I
doesn't
didn't
feel
get you
good.
didn't you don't get anything. You
Yeah,
get nothing.
you get an applause from your friends, and that's about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, and oh wait, you may get 40 XP because you got XP. I mean, championship points for the
Yeah.
next season.
Oh
That was the
yeah,
thing.
wasn't that a thing during that days? Now, right now,
Yeah.
that's no longer a fact, right? When you go to Worlds, even if you
No,
make top 32, you just get 0 CP. So sometimes people would
yeah.
claim, like, if you play the Open, you have an advantage for next season. So if you make it to day
Yeah.
2 of Worlds, and then you get like nothing of like
Yeah.
rewards, you pretty
Yeah.
much wasted it
And
that way.
and now here's if I can talk about the format upcoming now. I am personally believing that changing back to the Worlds format we get now, the Worlds is one tournament, is a great idea. Hear me out. I'm guessing somewhere between 300 and 400 masters will qualify for Worlds. Just a guess. But
Yeah,
just imagine for a moment that 350, just 350, great number, qualify. What does that mean? That means you get a 2-day event like we're used to. That also means that if you're 350 players, how many players do you get in day 2? 40 to 50 players? And then it suddenly becomes much less of a handicap playing day 2 Worlds because so many players there will reach top 32. The price ratio will be much better. That means that what you're referring to that was really bad playing day 2 if you didn't get anything, it was better to play the Open for next
yeah,
season. Here, you get that there are much fewer players in day 2 when a potential World Open will happen because let's not forget, last time I checked, there was no Yokohama Open. It got cancelled.
yeah.
Uh,
Tell me about it.
let's not. I will believe it when I see it. And even from a staff perspective, I still don't know why. I don't know. I can only guess. I
They
had no
wanted they
influence on it.
wanted more room for spectators. I don't know.
I have officially no idea what happened there.
Maybe
Hmm.
they
But the
didn't have
fact
enough
is,
translators for the side event. I have no idea.
no idea, no idea. And anybody who may know something about it can be feel free to tell about it. But I wouldn't have any idea. And I think this is something that it's not sure before we know. Before on the day and the Open starts, that's when we're sure there's going to be an Open.
Yeah, because
And I
Pokemon can
think
always like revert things or cancel things, as we all know.
yeah, and Pokemon is always like has been over the years been a little like there's been surprises. There's always been some changes. And what do we know about coming up now? So just to round off where we are right now, we're sitting at the end of 2016. We had the San Francisco World Championship just
Yeah,
finished, and we just had the last nationals rounded up. So now we go into 2017, which is the first year of the system that we know. That is, we had regionals, SPs, day 2 tournaments, we had the ICs. And where was the first IC in Europe? The very first
London,
one? That
London.
was London. And remember, we're going back to London this year for our UIC. If they don't change it, but I doubt. But
Probably
EYC,
not.
London coming. We had, and nobody has not always been EYC in London. We also had Berlin and we had Frankfurt
Yeah, correct.
more than once.
No, I think it
Frankfurt,
was Berlin, London, Frankfurt, London. They always love to
yeah,
return to London. It seems.
yeah. Well, London, I don't know about you, but I like London as location. I'm happy with both of them. Don't get me wrong,
And
but I don't, so I don't mind it.
super cheap to go to London, like compared to the other
Yeah.
ones.
Then again, staying in London, Joshua, I
Staying
don't
in
know if you
London is
check.
insane. That's I
Now
can.
that it evens out. It evens out unless you want to sleep in the park, which is probably illegal somewhere. I don't know. But
And
in any
dangerous
case,
as well.
I think that so we're sitting right now at the dawn of this modern age that we know to. So I think we covered loosely covered black and white, some plasma cards.
Yeah, and all
We
of
talked
those
about
formats were actually they rotated after Worlds, and they were going to be seeing that trend again. I think like that World Championship was I think where the Sun and Moon block came across. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's what
because
Zoroark,
right in
2017, the ICs,
indeed, and then
Zoroark
we get all the
GX.
IC run Sora GX in many different versions because you played Sora Galissapod was the very big thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
had you had Sora with so many things. I believe Tord won with that. Tord won with Sora Gardevoir. Sora, yeah, Tord won a lot of stuff. I think that's just the theme of those years, and
Zoroark and
he's still
Zoroark
doing
and
well
Friends.
these days. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sora is
exactly.
a good card. Like, drawing cards is good. I remember somebody telling us that drawing cards is good.
Drawing
And
cards has always been historically good. Look at Mew. Look at
yeah,
Genesect. That ability is nuts.
don't even talk about it, man. That is indeed a lot. So I think that is a good point to say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have rounded off. We're at the dawn of the modern age now. I think modern age, I mean, like modern age in the terms of the tournament structures that
Yeah,
we are
like
facing right
they are
now.
very familiar to the things we currently do. But there was also that World of San Francisco where they did like day one standard and then expanded or something. I heard
No,
some.
no, there was no. That was at regionals. You could do that. They had
Yeah,
some
there
things
was
like
something with that.
standard. Yeah, so I remember flying to Stockholm for regionals, and we played standard on the first day, and Top Cut would be expanded.
That was
And
crazy.
and yeah, I remember being so pissed because I got ninth because of tiebreaker, and
Oh,
I was so ready to play Flareon Vespiquen in expanded, and everybody was playing Toad. It would have been so good. I was so salty that I didn't get to play it because they either played
what was that?
Toad
Was that the
or
only thing that they did like with day one standard and then top eight like expanded? Because I've
yeah.
never seen it again.
No, I think that was something that was just correct me if I'm wrong, but the organizer's discretion at that time. And you saw a few regionals with this format, and it was the organizer's discretion. Yeah, so you would see I flew to Stockholm, and there it was Heidi Houston that ran it. I believe she was the TO, and then that was decided that was the format for the event. Of course, it was clearly communicated up front, not
Yeah,
made
yeah,
up on the
everyone knew
spot.
it, but it's so confusing for people watching at home because I checked out those regional streams. There were streams, yeah,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
that
like,
they existed.
yeah, and I was like very confused, like why random cards that were rotated were suddenly in. That must have been really confusing for newer players as
But
well.
but but then again, we're not the first card games to do this because this is very common in Magic. For instance, you play X number of rounds in Modern or Standard or whatever they call it, then you would draft something or you would play in a different format. You would play different formats throughout the tournament. So it's not something that's unseen. It's just I Pokemon also just tries different things.
Yeah,
Like
true.
we're trying different things yet again, and I'm really intrigued to look forward how this is going. And I must say, being staffing these events is very interesting because you get well a different view of it, and that's something I really much appreciate to be able to do this season and the last. It's I was very skeptical at first. Like I still miss playing. Don't get me wrong, still miss playing. I the last tournament I officially really played like super competitive was Worlds in London, and I played Mewtwo Control.
Yeah, me
That was
too. Let's go.
woo,
I was at
indeed
5-3,
Mewtwo.
so one win short.
Yeah,
And
I
you
had the
exploded
same.
on stream or something like
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah. I lost with style, I would say, on stream. I lost my win and in against Ice Rider, who played uh, Belt and Leon. How are you supposed to beat that with Mewtwo Control? You're not supposed to beat that, so I
no,
could
that
not beat
doesn't
that.
supposed to happen.
No, so I decided to make animations on stream,
Yeah,
make nice animations, putting it together, and then it exploded everywhere, and that was a lot of fun
it
because well,
was.
I was just my goal was just to sit there for 50 minutes and have a good time because I knew I
That's
was
something
gonna
like people
lose.
are starting to forget that the game should be fun. Definitely when you think about that they raised the bar for Worlds 2024 over in
Mhm.
Hawaii, people are saying, "Oh, I'm never
Yeah,
gonna get my Worlds invite." Like, forget Worlds invite, have
yeah.
fun, practice every day, and just try to
I
enjoy the
may
game.
I may have a very unpopular opinion here, but I think it should be harder to get to Worlds. Set in the way that I'm happy with that they raised the bar.
Yeah, for me it was
I'm not-
like it's the first time that it feels like a little bit of a challenge, even though I'm like 70
yeah,
CP away from
yeah,
Worlds. It's still
yeah.
a good run or a
Don't
good
get me don't
season.
get me wrong. I think so. I think in the past, especially the last season, say or before, that it was too easy to get to Worlds, in my
Way
opinion.
too easy.
But
Definitely with
I
locals, and you had like best eight finishes, and you only need
yeah
350 CP in
yeah
Europe, and
not okay. Like I'm quite content with the 500/600 mark that you're seeing.
definitely because
That
like when
that's
I
all.
played at Washington, we were with like 681. It's like it's just too big of a number. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel that
that's too big.
special.
No, and the reason also Pokemon is doing it, you see, at the same time they restricted access to worlds, let's call it like that. So on one hand, the CP bar went up, right? On the other hand, you can get a direct invite by winning event or top twoing an IC. Then again, if you top, let's say you top two an IC, I think you're gonna get your CP anyway at that point.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
point is, but at the same time, they're making worlds one day events, so they are aiming for
A
around, let me
smaller
say,
and better experience for the players there.
and more exclusive, which is why I kept saying like the 300 to 400 is still my guess. I may be wrong, but I think it's gonna be okay. I made a few videos back in the time also how many points you need to get to Worlds.
I
I
think it's
should
gonna be
maybe
around like
revisit.
390, something like that.
That still sits the mark, I think, to me, and that will make it a very interesting Worlds, I think. But I think also that is exactly what we're at right now. So I think that's a good place to hold the drink for next time.
Yeah, sure. So we currently are at like the Sun and Moon block, so maybe we should make it a 3-part series, and we
I
will.
think we have to, because right now we're gonna enter. We are talking about 16, 17. We didn't really talk about the decks then. We only talked about the format as a whole,
Yeah, exactly.
like
There
the
was like
surroundings around
Breakthrough,
it.
Breakpoint, all the way
Exactly.
to
So you're
Celestial Storm.
exactly all the way. No. I think it stops at Burning Shadows.
Oh,
Burning
okay.
Shadows. So you had Guardians Rising, which means you had
Tapu Lele
things.
party.
Yeah, you had a lot of things, Tapu Lele coming in and all these things. But I think this is where it's a good place to start on a part 3, because we start on a Sun and Moon block,
Yeah,
like the new
exactly.
era,
So what
all
can we
of a new
conclude is
age.
that like all the formats from black and white all the way to XY were enjoyable, except for maybe the Seismitoad part about it, I
So
suppose.
you would find two very distinct camps. There are people who would love and miss Toad bats and Toad hammers and Toad hypnotoxic later, and you'll find people who just are so happy it's long faded
Yeah,
into
but
memory.
like if we take a look at like the modern age, like there are people like, oh, I don't like the V Maxes, I don't like ADP, I don't like the tag teams. Like there was way more formats that felt when you
Yeah,
compare it to the black and white to XY. I think they did a lot of things right. A lot of
I
things right.
think I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm also just want to say at the same time, there's always, no matter what format you're in, there's always going to be somebody out there hating on the format and be like, I don't like this.
I don't
It
like
was be-
Vileplume.
no, it was better to play base set. It was better to play
Yeah,
whatever, anything.
it's always
No,
like subjective, definitely with some
and
nostalgia
that's
factor
fair.
thrown in there.
Indeed, and that is perfectly fair. That's also what makes this game so special. We all remember it differently. We all have different experience with the game. Be player, be staff, be spectator, be casual,
Exactly. But
be a
the
pro
cool thing
player.
is, like, it all fits together. Like, I've been playing for like 12 years. I learned a lot from the formats you played in, and you got yourself a lot of
Yeah.
trophies and the old school format and all that. And now it's going to be all blending together because Sun and Moon is where I started play really competitively. I had my glory days in 2012 with the ECC and my second place nationals. Had that hiatus, but in 2017, I'd be back with some Sun and Moon action. So that's going to be nice to be talking about that.
We're gonna have Dawn of the New Age then. Yes, I'm
Yes,
looking
Dawn of the
forward to
New
that
Age.
one.
That's definitely something I will be talking about. So yeah, for now, this is has been part 2. Thanks, Steffen, for joining us as usual. We're gonna be doing this probably in the beginning of January if we find some time, like the Happy New Year cheers and all that good stuff, and then we complete it because people want to be knowing when is gonna the rotation will be taking place this season because that's still
Yeah,
up in the air. It's so
that's up in the
strange.
air, and
Nobody knows.
I know when. I know when, Joshua.
Yeah,
I know. I
April.
know.
No.
I know it's gonna happen in 2024.
That's a good one. That's a good one. But you're not wrong.
Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
they
if you
quicken
had
it.
to take a guess,
No,
are we gonna align with Japan officially with set releases and rotation as well?
here's my personal guess. First tournament in new format, new standard format is EYC.
Yeah, that makes sense. They always
Yeah,
try to
that is,
do those at like set releases and IC, so
yeah,
ICs
that
then
is my
get bigger
guess.
numbers at the stream.
Exactly. That is my final guess. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Who knows?
Who
There's only
knows?
one way to figure out. Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Thanks.
Exactly. So, any shout outs you want to be giving to the people watching?
I'm really, really happy that people would like to watch these. And if you've been sitting around for this long time listening to us yapping about good old times, well, I thank you very much for that. And well, this is also if you want to stop by for some Pokemath, you know
Yeah,
where to
he's
find me.
really
Or
good at it. If you want to be
and
knowing what the chances are when your 3 rare candies are priced and when you play
oh, don't even
Ionia, don't find them. You have to be over
you
on Steffen's
always.
channel.
And otherwise, go and check out Epic Splash, everyone.
Yeah,
That's
the best side event format you've ever
it
played.
is.
Definitely. You'll have so much fun. You're going to laugh. And the game is all about laughing. And
and now what you're going to do now, Joshua, you're going to go to the document. You're going to check out the legal card list. You're going to build your very own Epic Splash deck.
Ooh, yeah, maybe. I'll definitely take a look at it because I have a lot of old school cards laying around. So we'll see what else is playable. I was trying to get like a GLC deck as well as an expanded, but expanded is like pretty dead. Don't know why. Maybe that's also another topic for another day. Why is expanded die? Why did it die? Who knows?
Who knows? But
thanks again for being here. And we will be back in January for part 3, where we finally conclude all the rotations throughout the year. So we're going to be going from Sun and Moon all the way to the current rotation, and we're going to be speculating. Maybe there's going to be more information for us to be talking about, like when rotation will be taking place. But one thing is clear, Mew VMAX will rotate, and everyone's happy.
And thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. See you around.